Hi everybody, welcome. I know I haven't posted in a few days, but I was really kind of taking care of myself and doing my own inner work, which is so important, so that I can be here for you. And so now I just want to hop on and talk a little bit about grief. Several of you have asked me to talk a little bit about grief, what it is, what it means, and some of the somatic tools to move through it. So grief is this really beautiful but often very painful phenomenon of dealing with loss. And so loss, what happens with loss in our brain is that the neurological pathways that have been there for a long time are now short-circuited. And it feels like death. It's like the map of where to go in our brain is no longer there. And so this is really about, this is death, but other experiences can also feel like death, like ends of relationship, having to give something up, you know, more invisible losses like miscarriages or infertility, loss of a job, you know, relationships. To different degrees, depending on the severity, they all feel like death because the neural pathways in our brains are no longer working. So the maps that our brain has created to understand connection, love, acceptance, sense of value, sense of importance, they're no longer working. It's like the map has been taken out from under us and we're put into a different world without a sense of map, and we don't know what to do. So the brain is rewiring. So grief is the process of rewiring the brain, of dealing with change, essentially. And it is a really powerful, really deep process, but one that can also lead to tremendous growth because the rug has been taken out from under us and we have to build something new. It's like it's forcing us to grow. It's forcing us to build something new. And grief can be seen as a sacred journey. Grief is a sacred journey of change and evolution, even though it's quite painful. So traditionally, you know, the traditional model of what grief looks like is like stages, and it's first comes denial, then anger, then bargaining, trying to keep it from happening, then a sense of depression, and then finally acceptance. But kind of in somatic therapy and somatic psychology, it's really not that linear. You know, these things, grief comes as a roller coaster. You know, different feelings come in different waves. They can come together. And it's really cyclical and quite turbulent because the brain is just building new neuron pathways and it doesn't know where to go. So some of the experiences of grief really are about, you know, denial is a major one, shock to the system, questions and trying to like reason it out, a deep sense of anxiety and overwhelm, emotional flooding, withdrawal, and a deep sense of fear about the future. And it's like the somatic experience is that the old patterns just don't work. And so the frontal cortex, the neocortex of the brain, the one that is responsible for a lot of our kind of human intelligence and emotional connection and processing, tries to change the past. Yeah, actually, you know, things like if only or should, and these blame, shame, and guilt patterns come in. And what I would urge you to do is, if you're in a process of grief, is to recognize when you are in a process of blaming, shaming, or guilting either yourself or another for the sense of loss that you're experiencing. And just understand it as your brain trying to make sense of this deep sense of loss, and understand that you're in a deep, transformative process of change. And this is a great opportunity. As difficult as it is, it's a great opportunity for growth, because more often than not, we grow out of a sense of pain. You know, if everything's okay in life or we're just kind of chilling, we're not going to be growing. You know, we grow when bad things happen, when we don't know what to do, when we experience loss and we have to build anew. This is when we get to heal our wounds, to redefine, to have very introspective moments. And so when you're in grief, it's really like a deep moment, a deep process of introspection and mapping out the growth and the change. And grief, in a somatic context, it has a lot of physical implications. Some of the most common, especially in women, but I think generally most common somatic kind of physical manifestations of grief is stomach nausea. Because this is our power center, and so we lose our sense of power because we don't know what to do anymore. There's this sense of powerlessness around grief, and so it manifests in loss of appetite, in nausea, sometimes vomiting, like sick to the stomach. It's this feeling of I'm sick to the stomach, and that's because our power has been taken away from us. It's this feeling, this is our power center. Headaches are really common as well, because our brain is just trying to make sense, to rationalize, to find reasons, to blame, shame, guilt, to map neural pathways. So headaches, sleeplessness, sense of fatigue, both mental and physical, because our brain is really on overdrive, which is why anxiety may happen, sense of overwhelm may happen. Sleeplessness is really common, because our brain is really on overdrive, trying to figure out how to build new neuron pathways. It's like when you're learning a new language. I don't know if any of you have learned a new language as an adult, but if you're learning a new language as an adult, not as a child, as an adult, you will find that you get exhausted, like absolutely fatigued at the end of the day, because so much of your internal life force is being taken up by building new neural pathways, because the language is a completely new system. Same thing with grief. It's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster, a physical roller coaster. And I would really urge you to, and invite you to allow for this deep process to unfold and accept it as as the caterpillar that went into the cocoon, and it needs to literally dissolve everything that's old to build the new. And so the process in the cocoon is a difficult one of disillusion, but it's the one that gives birth to the beautiful butterfly. And so if you're in grief, you're in a cocoon. You're in the cocoon and you're going through painful transformation. Hi, Parvina. Good to see you. And so what it really takes is time and acceptance. Now, time is something that we can't change, right? It's a dimension of our embodied being that we just have to move forward and give to. And acceptance kind of works in a direct correlation with time, because the more we accept, the more we can allow for the process to unfold in time. If we, many people, when we're in grief, we default to old patterns, old defense mechanisms of numbing and repressing feelings or distracting ourselves with somebody. So let's say if you're in a loss of a relationship, something that is very common before due time, especially with men, I feel like in our society, but also with women, is to just seek out distractions, romantic distractions somewhere else. And that can work for a little bit of time, based on my personal experience, that could certainly work. But then it'll come back to bite you tenfold, because you haven't dealt with the process of grief, of ending. numbing with alcohol or drugs or any sort of other distractions. Also, yeah, you're not going to be feeling your feelings right now, but it's going to come back really, really deep. So try to stay present. Try to stay present with the feelings, and try to move through them like riding a wave. When I was going through a deep process of grief, a friend of mine, also a deep meditator, brought about a really nice analogy of like, try to ride it like a wave. Don't get swallowed deep into the ocean, but just ride it. Be observant of what's happening. And view it like a sacred journey of metamorphosis in that way. So I'm going to give you some kind of somatic exercises that may be good for feeling the feelings. We want to really feel the feelings. So let's see, I might have to tweak the camera a little bit. I'm still not very good with technology and social media, but let me see if this works. Let's see. Okay. Let me raise you guys up a bit. I'm going to show you a really good emotional release for getting into a somatic consciousness around grief. So I am on my knees, if you can see me. I'm on my knees, and I am going to spread out my hands and drop my shoulders. So put my shoulders back and down and really expose my chest. Bring my chest forward, my hips a little bit forward. Let me show you like this. Yeah. Tilt my head back. My hands are not stiff like this. They're loose. They're like loose. The weight is really in the shoulders. Take my head back. And in this place, wail. Let me show you. Ah. Ah, 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 and just be in this place of like, take me, spirit. And I did it for a short time, but I'm going to do it right now, maybe for a couple of minutes. I really urge you to do this for a long time and let the emotions come up. It's going to feel really emotional. So let me just demonstrate it, but in your own practice, do it for some time. It's going to get really uncomfortable, okay? But it's going to move a lot of grief emotion through you. Something like this. Just make sure your shoulders are back, your heart is open, and your hands or your arms are loose, and your hands are tight. Not like this, like this. Yeah, you're holding it. You're holding the energy of your heart. And so I only did it for a little bit, but I'm actually feeling myself like drop into my grief around some things and some of my own inner wounds. I don't know if you saw my energy change a little bit, but yeah, do it for longer than I did. It's going to be much more helpful. And then I've been I've been also showing some other techniques around expressing anger, moving anger through. And this can be done well together. So in the wailing position, and then, like pounding pillows. Do it for longer, okay? Do it for longer. Another really good exercise for connecting to your feelings, if you feel like they're so repressed and suppressed that they're not coming up, a really good one to do is this freeze place. Let me Hi guys, you fell. Hold on. Let me make you a little bit lower. I'm still getting a hang of all this. So what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna lie down on a bed or a surface or something. Let's see, can you see me? Yeah. You're gonna get into like a tight fetal position with your head to your knees, and you're going to take a big breath in, going like, so you're going to breathe in, and then when you're on your in-breath, you're going to scrunch your face and just tighten everything. Tighten all of your muscles, your hands, your arms, your butt, your core. Tighten everything and hold your breath until you can't hold it anymore. And then when you can't hold it anymore, do like, with that sound, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate it again. No, I didn't do it for as long as I couldn't hold my breath, but do it until you can't hold your breath. And do the sound, okay, as you expand. And do that a couple of times. Do that like 3-4 times. And you're going to start feeling feelings a lot more. And this is really good to do not only when you're not feeling grief, when you're in grief and you're not really connecting to your emotions, but in general when you have a situation and you're not connecting to your emotions. Apart from these exercises, journaling is like a really, really strong thing. Because in grief, the overwhelming experience is a sense of powerlessness, loss. Because your brain is actually lost at what to do because the old neural pathways are no longer working. Yeah, so it's like, what the fuck, where do I go? Where do I go? And so journaling is a really good way to bring in a sense of control and direction to your brain. So that's really good. Also dancing. I know that when you're in grief, there may be such a sense of exhaustion and fatigue that you do not feel like dancing. But this isn't dancing to have fun. This is dancing to connect to yourself, to connect to your power, to connect to a sense of where do I want to go now, to help your brain build those new neural pathways. So put on some music. I keep saying ecstatic dance music if you have Spotify or even on YouTube or SoundCloud, whatever. Google ecstatic dance and turn it on. Put on a timer on your phone for 10 minutes. That is all you need to do, just 10 minutes. And dance. You can put your headphones on if you're with roommates or children, whatever. And just dance, just move. Move in your authentic expression. Hi, Kai, good to see you. Those are some things that I find really powerful with grief. A sense of a loss of appetite is really also common, again, because our power center is our stomach, our pelvic region. And in a sense of powerlessness, this feeling of nausea and loss of appetite is really important, is really common. So I would say don't force yourself to eat, that brings on even more powerlessness. Instead, take care of yourself. Make something nice for yourself, even if it's small, even if it's a smoothie, even if it's taking yourself out for a nice dinner, not for the food, but for the pleasure of taking care of yourself. the more you take care of yourself and treat yourself with love in this difficult time, the more is going to come out on the other end as well. There's a difference between depression and grief. Grief is a process where we're taking steps, even though there might be this deep sense of sadness. It's like little tiny steps. And the sense of overwhelm and sadness is not like total hopelessness and morass. Or if there is a sense of hopelessness, it moves. And we can get it to move through these somatic exercises, okay? That's really important. So if you're feeling really hopeless, do these things. They'll help you. If you're in a place of depression where for a long period of time you feel completely hopeless in your sadness, where you don't see a way out, depression is really about not seeing a way out of the sadness and of the morass of darkness. Please get in touch. Please seek help. Support is something that we all need in our lives at all times, especially in times of grief. So yeah, that's pretty much what I think I want to leave you with grief. It's a sacred journey of change. Grief is a sacred journey of change. So if we see it as a journey, the sense of powerlessness becomes a lot less prominent, I think. I'm sending you all of my love, all of my strength, and all of my support. And I definitely, as everybody else probably, have been through grief and through loss. And I'm sure it hasn't stopped for me in my life, because it's something we deal with throughout our life, because all of life is a journey. So yeah, please get in touch if you have any questions or comments. All of my love, guys. Bye. And women, have a beautiful day.